All right, folks, thanks for joining us on this gloomy day, but we're excited to shed some light on a topic that I think is very relevant with the marketplace today. So on behalf of the education side of NAIFA-Texas, on behalf of the committee, as well as the NAIFA-Texas Board of Directors, very excited to chat with Lucas Siegel, who is the head and founder CEO of Harbor Life Brokerage, a very unique firm, which you're going to hear quite a bit about. You're going to get a wonderful education on life settlements, which for some of us who had very minimal knowledge on the topic, I think it'll be clear that the tonality and the stigma that comes around settlements just being viaticals and taking advantage of the elderly. I think you'll find that to not be the case when you're working with the right types of organizations. So Lucas has been quite the disruptor in the marketplace. It's something that he's prided himself on for a number of years, as a deep financial background. And it's going to be quite clear that he has studied, developed, and really brought a product and a service to the market that is one of those that you would have thought, why hasn't this been done before? So Lucas Siegel, appreciate you being a friend of NAIFA. Your firm is also not only sponsors and great supporters of NAIFA's drive to educate, advocate, and differentiate, but your firm is also working towards being a 100% member-based firm. So I appreciate the support. You've even driven out to Houston to personally visit with myself and our firm. And I appreciate the friendship too. So I'm excited. I'm going to get out of the way, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say and what to teach us.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to NAIFA for having us and allowing us to be such a good partner to you guys. And we're doing the best we can to provide as much value and support as we can. My name is Lucas Siegel. I'm the CEO and founder of Harbor Life. And I've been in the life settlement space for about 15 years. I started off at a hedge fund that was buying the policies. And then based on my experiences there and what I thought the market needed, went and started Harbor Life. So really honored to be here. And thank you so much. I will start sharing my screen and we can just get into it. Great. Well, this is our company, Harbor Life Brokerage. And today, really hoping to give you guys a broad level overview of life settlements and start really broad and then go deep and kind of talk about some of the stigmas that have happened in the past with life settlements, the evolution of the market, where it's at today, and how it's really an incredible tool for producers that are looking to help their clients make the best financial decisions possible. So at Harbor Life, we believe that people have the right to know the value of their assets so that they can make the best financial decisions possible for their families. We believe in radically transparent markets that benefits consumers and producers at the same time, and building that radical transparency through technology and through innovation and through disrupting really the status quo of what was life settlements versus what I think it really should be, and how to legitimize the asset class and make it something that is really an advocacy tool for producers helping their clients. So every year in the United States, there's about $200 billion of life insurance that's lapsing that could have been sold as a life settlement. And so we're at about a 2% market penetration. And what we consider this is really a tragic, astronomical waste of wealth for American families. And that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. And that's why we're so passionate about it. Our job is to help inform families about their liquidity options on an asset that they didn't even know they had liquidity on, and enable producers to really educate families and just add on as one more extension of their service on how they benefit the families that they represent. So one of the interesting things about life settlements is it's technically called a non-correlated asset, which means that as the stock market goes up and down, life settlements are unaffected because it's based on longevity underwriting, not the S&P 500. And with that, there has been a flood of institutional capital that's entered the space over the last 5 to 7 years. And what that's created is a seller's market, not a buyer's market. Much like on real estate, there is an oversupply of capital trying to buy policies and an undersupply of new policies for them to create. And so what that's created is an increase in the price. So funds are paying more than they've ever paid for policies. They're having to get super creative about the policies that they will and will not buy. A lot of the policies that we sell today, we couldn't have sold 5 to 7 years ago. But these funds are buying policies with longer life expectancies and getting really financially innovative with the premium to face ratios to expand the market and open it up. And there's never been a better time for an insured to consider selling their policy and really understand the liquidity value because of the massive amount of competition of dollars trying to chase this asset class. So just to kind of back up and take a bird's eye view for anyone that's not fully understanding what a life settlement is, it's fairly simple. So as of a 1911 Supreme Court ruling, Grigsby versus Russell, life insurance is private property. It's an asset, and it's the family's asset that they can do whatever they want with, which means just like the shirt on my back or a house or a car, families have the right to sell that asset at market rates. So there's a couple different entities within it. You've got people that represent the insured, and that's us. Harbor Life, we are a broker and we represent the insured and the family. So we have a fiduciary duty to do what's in the best interest of the family. The producers on this call, they represent the families, and then the insureds themselves and the families themselves. Those are the people on one end of the spectrum representing the client. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the people representing the investors. So those would be the provider, which is really kind of a glorified title company. But the provider represents the buyer, the fund in the transaction. You've got the fund that could be an accumulation of a bunch of high net worth investors or pension funds or investment banks or private equity funds. And then, and also banks represent some of the people in the fund. And then you've got the investors, everyday mom and pops that their pension invests in this asset class, or high net worth investors that invested in a fund. Those are the people on the other side of the transaction that represent the buyer of the policy. So you've got this bifurcated market where you've got someone representing the seller and the family who has their own interests, which is get the highest price humanly possible. And then on the other end, you've got people representing the buyer, which is how can I buy it for the highest IRR or rate of return for me or my fund? So a lot of different ways that life settlements happen. One of the techniques that we see a lot is we call it the low information arbitrage strategy, which is an insured selling it directly through a provider to an investor. And a lot of these firms market it as there's no fee involved. I put quotation marks in there because there is a fee. They just bake their fee into the purchase price. And so there's a fee, you just don't know what it is. It's not transparent. And this model really only exists for people that don't know any better, honestly, or are in an extreme time crunch. So that's why we call it the low information arbitrage. It's kind of like if you were driving on the highway and you saw a billboard that says, "We buy ugly houses," only send us your house and we'll be the only person to bid on it. They really don't want a lot of people bidding on a policy. They want an exclusive because then they can lowball the policy. But the direct component of it is really good if someone is in a bind and needs to sell it really quickly. And that's where we see a lot of the times where it works out well. The other way to do a life settlement is the traditional broker model. And so a life settlement broker is a fiduciary licensed in all the states that they're licensed in. There's federal background checks, FBI background checks that are involved in fingerprinting. And the rule for a broker, because they represent the family, the technical rule for a broker is that a broker has to show the policy to at least 3 different buyers to show that they got bids and made it price competitive. And so you've got your 3 buyers, your broker, that's the minimum that they need to do to show that they shopped it. And then they take a fee on top of that. When we started this business, I had seen it all because I was on the trading desk of a hedge fund that was buying these policies. And I noticed that, the traditional broker way was fairly archaic and a complete lack of transparency. 3 people as a minimum to who you send it to doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you're really representing the family, you want to send it to as many qualified buyers as possible, and you want to pin them up against each other to drive up the price. So what we did is we built a business about how could we modernize life settlements, legitimize life settlements, institutionalize life settlements, so that fiduciaries really have a good concept of what is best execution in this transaction, and how do we get every major buyer in the world all together in one place to drive up the price as much as humanly possible. Think about it like MLS in real estate, where you list your house and it goes out to all these buyers that can look at it. So what we did at Harbor Life is we built what we call the exchange revolution, which is unparalleled transparency, competition, and fiduciary compliance. So instead of just, you've got this side of the transaction where you've got the insured and the producer and the broker, instead of just sending it to a minimum of 3 people, we've built the Harbor Life Exchange, which sends it to almost the entire market in a live online bidding auction that drives up competition and forces these institutional investors to compete. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like right here. So our buyers log in and they click buy policies, and then right here they can see all these different policies that are for sale. So you've got this one, 87-year-old $100,000 policy with Columbus Life, 54-month life expectancy, 27 bids. It's at $31,200, but it's still got 6 days, 4 hours, 11 minutes, and 17 seconds to go. So it's really a live auction, and some of these get really fun. There's nothing more exciting than having an auction that's got a bunch of market participants and watching these big institutional hedge funds just battle it out, knowing that every single bid they make against each other is an additional benefit and value to the families that we all represent. And it's really glorious to watch these things go. The other thing, when we talk about compliance, there used to be what's considered, and I guess there still is, just not with us, in the wild west of life settlements, is lack of transparency on the bid. So what we said is we want a full open kimono. There's no hidden fees. And you can see exactly how many bids were received by what entities. So what we did is we actually publish every single bid, not only by the day, but by the second, so that people can see exactly what happened in the auction and how it produced such a great result. And what's funny is when we started this auction, everyone said to me, Luke, this is crazy and no one will do this. But Since its launch, we're averaging about 50% higher bids than the rest of the market, and it's working flawlessly. And that's just a function of what we call conscious capitalism. It's doing the right thing and moving in a way that the world needs to go. The world is moving towards higher transparency for consumers and higher competition, because this is America. It's a capitalist environment where competition creates better results for consumers. So that's what we built, and it's been really exciting to watch it kind of come to life. Another cool, interesting feature about the auction, like we've had a couple of people ask us, if someone bid, like, do you have people that bid at the very last minute? And the answer is yes, but we actually built something called an anti-sniping clause. So if anyone bids within the last 30 minutes of an auction, it automatically extends that auction for an additional 30 minutes and lets all the other buyers know that they've been outbid and they have 30 minutes to reply. And so it's wild because we have auctions that extend 6 or 7 times, because it just turns into a complete and total fist fight on the exchange, which is really fun to watch and really exciting to be a part of. One of the things that producers talk to me about sometimes is, the ethics of life settlements, and saying that, like, I don't want to do life settlements because carriers don't like life settlements. Everyone's kind of been in this experience where someone tells you not to do something, and then they go behind your back and do it themselves. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. And that's exactly what's happening with life settlements and carriers. This is something from John Hancock. This is a quote from John Hancock that said, "We'd like to offer you an option that might better align with your current financial needs. Like many of our customers, you purchase life insurance with a specific financial goal in mind. What fit your needs and met your goals at that time might no longer work for you." So carriers are doing what's called enhanced cash surrender offers, which is a life settlement. And they're doing it in a massive scale, and regulators are scrambling to stop them. So the thing is an enhanced cash surrender value is the same thing as a life settlement. They're giving them cash to lapse to buy back the policy and the rights to that death benefit. The only difference is that there's no price discovery. So they're just sending out a price to the insured and not doing price discovery to make sure that the family's getting the most money. There's no transparency in it. And they are cutting out the producer of that transaction. So they're doing life settlements. They're just cutting agents out and dropping the prices for insureds. So far, 6 states have officially put out statements against it and are enforcing things against it. And we are closely following this, and more states are set to follow. So just know that, if anyone has this kind of moral contradiction about like life settlements, I can't do life settlements because carriers don't like it. Carriers are doing life settlements without you. And we feel like it's our duty and our job to breed transparency in this marketplace and make sure that clients get the best offers humanly possible and have radical transparency to that data. So why would someone do a life settlement? Well, a lot of people won't. If life insurance, if the family's needs stay the same as when they originally purchased the policy, life settlements aren't for everybody, but they are for a lot of people, especially considering that universal life policies have an 87% lapse rate. It'd be a shame for people and your clients to lapse a policy without getting a quote and evaluation, a free valuation on what it might be worth in the secondary market. Because on average, a life settlement is 4 to 11 times higher than the surrender value. So not getting that quote and that understanding of what a policy is worth is an astronomical waste of wealth. And people use life settlements to have more cash on hand for things like medical bills, retirement, peace of mind. So many retirees, their number one fear is not death. It's actually running out of money. And just having that liquidity and that peace of mind, and even if they don't go along and do the settlement, knowing that getting a free valuation and knowing that they could increases people's quality of life. And when the premiums are getting higher and higher on a policy, a lot of people need to drop the premium fees, and they just can't float the policy, and it starts eating into the cash surrender value, and eventually it's a lapse or sell situation. So life settlements are really good for dropping people's expenses, increasing liquidity, really broadening the spectrum of choices that people have in their life. We say it's not really life insurance if you can't use that money while you're alive. It's death insurance. And at Harbor Life, what we pride ourselves in is educating clients and producers on what their liquidity options are so that they can use that money now while they're alive when they might need it most. I'm going to give you just a couple examples about policies that have been successful and policies that have not been. This is Ruth. She had a $1.7 million policy, 66 years old. It's a tragic case where Ruth got a traumatic brain injury. So she was healthy when the policy was issued and then got a traumatic brain injury. And Ruth's agent actually went direct to what we call the information arbitrage route, which is going directly to a fund, or the We Buy Ugly Houses route. And they said, "Thank you, Ruth. We've been looking at your policy and we believe we'll give you $95,000 for your policy." And the GA that Ruth's agent worked with found out that they were doing this direct approach and called us and called the producer and said, "Hey, before you take this direct offer, we really think that you should get a third-party opinion and throw it on the exchange to see what the real market rate is, even just as a CYA to cover their liability." And so we took it to auction after Ruth had received this $95,000 offer. And the auction produced a $380,000 bid. So we more than tripled what they were getting direct. The advisor made $42,000 on the term conversion and $64,000 on the life settlement. So it was an incredible win for the producer, an incredible win for the family, and really beautiful experience overall. The next one is John. So we have a lot of these business policies, these key man policies, and John had a policy with his former company. He actually, it was in the senior living space, and he's 79 years old. He had a $1.5 million policy that he took out specifically for the business, and he sold the business, but was left with this policy. He didn't need it, so he was gonna lapse or sell it. And the producer called us and said, "Hey, is there anything you can do with this policy? You know, I'd hate to see John just throw it away. Is it worth anything?" Which is really the types of calls that we love to get and that we're really exceptional in. And so we did our underwriting on him and listed the auction. We found, yes, in fact, we do think that this policy has value. And we listed it and got him over $500,000. And his cash surrender value was next to nothing. I think it was $25,000. So what an incredible win for the family. The advisor made almost $100,000 in comp. And it created a win-win-win where the insured won, the family won, the advisor won, and it was really a beautiful, beautiful story. The next is Marlene. So this was an SUL, a survivorship policy, $2 million and about $72,000 in cash surrender value. She was 94. Her husband had passed, and Marlene and the kids just couldn't justify paying $180,000 in premiums to keep this policy in force, so they looked to sell. And we did underwriting and got a 48-month life expectancy, and did the math and ran it and realized that it was absolutely worth the family's time in putting it up on the auction. So this policy is actually still on the auction. It's got about 13 days remaining, and it's already at $675,000. So the advisor is going to make, over 78 grand in comp, and they had $72,000 in cash surrender value. So what an incredible, incredible win for the family. And it just feels really good to be able to help these people. My guess is this policy ends up selling for close to $1 million. But these are all great stories. I want to make something clear is that we're not pushing life settlements for places where life settlements don't make sense. Life settlements are not always the right option for families. And it's our job to not be a pushy salesperson, but to run the math for families and make the producer look really good by having extreme due diligence on the back end to give people professional advice on whether we think it's a good idea. So this is an example of an insured that came to us. He was 62 years old. He was diagnosed with MS, unable to live on his own, and his health was declining rapidly. Really a tragic story. So we reviewed the policy. He wanted to sell it. And we found that there was a living benefit rider on that policy. So instead of us selling it, we communicated with the family and we said, look, we don't think it's in your best interest to sell it, and we think you should activate this living benefit rider. And we actually worked with him for free and his family with the carrier to activate that living benefit rider for him because it was in the best interest of the family. So when we talk about transparency, after every single auction, we produce something like this, which is an offer letter, which shows the exact amount of bids that we got, the start bid, the ending bid. We're 100% transparent with the fees that are included. We split those fees with the producer. So on the offer letter, it looks like we're just taking all the fees. But then after we do that, we split it with the producer. There's 100% transparency on the bids. And then we run the math for families. We look at the life expectancy and the premiums that are going to be needed to pay to that life expectancy. And if that family reinvested that money that they got selling the policy, let's say at a 6% rate or whatever rate they want to do it at, what's the future value of keeping the policy, selling the policy, or surrendering the policy? And what's in the family's best interest? And that's really what we do is kind of a concierge back office for producers to give the best financial advice humanly possible and get the highest market rates. So one of the things that producers tell us a lot is, how do I start? How do I even know whether a policy would work or not? So many producers are used to using WinFlex for issuing new policies. And so we built really the WinFlex of life settlements, and it's called My Policy Predictor. Just like on Zillow, you can type in your address and it's got a Zestimate, which is Zillow's AI-driven estimate of what they think your house might be worth. We've built that for life settlements. It's artificial intelligence. It's the first of its kind AI-driven tool. So Rick, why don't we do this together? I would love to kind of run through a scenario with you and see what a policy might be worth.
Yeah, let's do it. Also, because I'm an awful host, but I've been typing in the chats that if anyone has any questions, hopefully we've got some time at the end of this. But if you have questions, please submit those through the Q&A, and I'll get those ready for Lucas and his team.
Cool. So we'll just call this Rick Test. Rick, what's an older client of yours? Give me an age we could type in here.
76.
76. And smoker, non-smoker?
Non-smoker.
Okay. And how's their health? From healthy to terminal conditions, just kind of broad.
How about significantly impaired?
Okay. Issue class?
Standard.
Okay. And we'll do universal life.
Okay.
What's a carrier?
Let's do Penn Mutual.
That caps lock's getting me. How old were they when they got it?
Let's say 40. Let's say 40.
How big?
3 million.
And what's their basis?
You could do 350,000. That looks like a good number.
It's cheap, good policy. What's the cash surrender value?
Let's say it's $500,000. Surely it would be more than that, but
so this is just a ballpark estimate, but based off of this, we think the insured would have roughly 112-month life expectancy, and the policy might be worth $875,000. So over the cash surrender value, you can see based off the commissions that are taken that we split with the producer, what the commission might be if it was a 10%, 20%, or the maximum 30% comp. No one really takes a 30% comp. We see it very rarely. I think our average is 19. And there's an application right here. If you wanted to send it to the client, that allows us to do our underwriting. And this gives you kind of an idea about what we think the policy might be worth depending on their health. And this just instantly does this. So when we clicked that, it ran 16,000 different computational elements to predict this in less than a minute. And this has never been available before. You can also build in, if they took that money, if they got that $800,000 and invested it, let's say they went pretty conservative at a 6%. We've got long-term capital gains. Let's say there's an 18% commission. What do we think the policy would be worth if they sold it? So net offer is 717. We're expecting they'd have about $55,000 in taxes because the payout they got was over their basis. And there's some investable. So this is the net investable proceeds. If they invested that money at a 6% over their lifetime, it would earn an additional $478,000 in interest. On top of that, we predict they'd have to pay another $300,000 in premiums to keep this policy active. And so if instead of paying those premiums, they invested those at a 6%, they'd earn an additional $88,000. You take in long-term capital gains. means the future value of selling the policy and reinvesting that money is worth about 1.4 million. Versus here's the future value of surrendering the policy, 1 million, and the future value of keeping the policy, 2.696 million. So this scenario is an example where it's not really in the client's best interest to sell this policy. It's in the client's best interest to keep this policy. So this is really a beautiful example about how we're not here to push life settlements in ways that don't make sense. We're here to liberate capital that needs to be liberated and help families make the best decision possible. So assuming that that family could pay that additional 300 grand over that person's life, we would have recommended that they keep the policy. So one of the great things about this tool, My Policy Predictor, I really encourage everyone to go on and create an account. We'll shoot it in the chat and in the email. You can, we have a lot of back office training people. So anytime someone's doing a 1035 or you're doing annual policy reviews, we train producers' back office support teams to get their own logins. And so every single time you're doing a policy review, we like to have liquidity options for that family in every single policy review for people over the age of 75, not to push a life settlement, but to know what the value could be, hypothetically, just like they would know what their house value was. It gives comfort, ease of mind, and we're here to do that as your back office for free. Which is just another thing that makes producers look super polished. And with this tool, we do staff trainings, we do webinars. It's really good for policy reviews. And we can also, if you've got Proformex or any other sort of inventory tracking software, we can upload an entire book of business into this tool. So you can instantly sort out what are the top 5% of best life settlement opportunities that I have in my book? And we do all that for you. So I'm not going to go deep into this, but another cool thing that we're seeing is premium finance cases that have all these floating rates for interest. A lot of them are struggling right now with the interest rate increases that we're seeing. And we're seeing some real clients that their debt load might have doubled or 2.5x what they were paying, and they need liquidity. We've got a great premium finance loan rescue program where this is not a life settlement. But if someone has written a lot of premium finance and they've got a case where the debt service is kind of spiraling a bit out of control, there really wasn't a good option on how to deal with that. And we've built a product, we worked with a fund to build a product that really helps customers get out of bad premium finance loans, which has been really beautiful, and it's accelerating a lot. It means that they would not have to pay off their loan. They don't have to pay any more premiums, and they walk away with cash and a residual death benefit without having to pay any more premiums for the rest of their life. So, things to take away from this. When we talk about life settlements, you might have had some clients in the case studies kind of pop into your brain. The question I have is, do you have a client that has missed premium payments that might be a good fit? Do you have any clients that have been paying minimum premiums and the cash surrender value is running low on the policy? Do you have a client that has a term conversion where the health that they were underwritten in is now worse than the health that they're in now? And the only way they're going to keep that, they would never do the term conversion, But if they have the option to sell it at the term conversion, it allows the producer to take the conversion comp, the consumer to get some cash, and it's a really good option. Do you have any clients that may need liquidity? The cost of senior living is exponentially going up, and they might need a cash cushion, or clients that could use the assets now, and if they did, it would improve their quality of life. Or any families that no longer need the coverage because the children are financially set or their estate planning strategies have changed. All we need to do an initial underwriting, we'll do a full initial underwriting, but we've got this document here that's on our website. So if you've got a client, let's say with a universal life policy, get a illustration with minimum premiums needed to maintain the level death benefit to age 15, minimum cash value at age 15, and the lapse is at 106. And if we get that, we'll go do a free initial underwriting. And your client doesn't even need to know that we're doing this. Let's run the math and see how it looks. And then you can go show your client and say, hey, I ran this analysis for you. And if you're interested in liquidity, let me know. And you can go fill out the forms and we'll go get this policy underwritten and see what it might be worth. It's really a good risk-free back office solution for producers to increase their income by more than 6 figures a year. And most importantly, do the right thing for their clients. So that's my last slide. We would love to get to know every single NAIFA member that we can. Please reach out to us and schedule a strategy session where we can talk about your book and talk about your business and see how we can help you or any of your clients in any ways. We love to collaborate. And it's really an honor to be here presenting to you guys. And thank you so much for having me. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you've got time. We do already have a couple of questions, and I'll remind everyone that if you do have something that you want to throw out to the group or you want to hear again, throw it out in the chat. Let us know. Lucas just said he wants to get to know you also. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that I do see a few past state presidents on this call, including our current state president. So I see Mr. Rodney Mogan on this. I see Jason Talley on this up in San Angelo. And I also see a Doug Massey, who is also in line to be national NAIFA president. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here. It looks like Karen has a question. So Karen's actually in Austin with you guys. And she wants to know what the story is with all the greenery behind you. Do you really have a green thumb, or what's going on?
That's a great question, Karen. So we've been contributors and support a mentally handicapped program in Austin that gives them jobs throughout the community. It's on a horse ranch outside of Austin. And so we've got about 35 indoor plants across our property at our headquarters. And they come every week and take care of the plants. And so it's a great way to, give people jobs and build community. And it's been really fun. I've done it I've sponsored this program and had them work with me for the last 7 years.
Wow, that's great. I thought it was just your passion for, having clean air in your office.
Well, that helps too.
Yeah. So Jason also wanted to know, he was curious if there was a policy minimum that really works in the settlement space. Is there a minimum that makes sense to send something to bid?
Yeah. So the technical minimum is $50,000 as face. We're one of the only brokers in the world that will do that. And the truth is, no one makes money on a $50,000 policy. We really do it as charity in giving back. But our the main minimum is $100,000. But the bigger the policy, the more bang for your buck. So, $500,000 and above really does the best. And as far as what types of people, over the age of 75, or someone who's got some real health problems.
Yeah, it's something that stood out to me within this talk, as well as some of our previous conversations. And you hit that with I think it was Ruth, and talking about what a term conversion looks like. When I thought of life settlements, it was viaticals. It was not a good environment, or they're upside down in a policy. They just want to be done with it. But touching on the term is great, because I never would have thought of that. And then plus you mentioned even on this call that the producer can get paid on the conversion. The buy sells, which for my book of business makes a lot of sense, because I'm dealing with folks that are leveraging those plans, and now they've sold the business, or something's changed. And heaven forbid something change within our lives. So knowing that there's another avenue that we can go down. And then also the living benefits, which I talk about. What if you kind of died is part of my language. And I was glad that you hit all three of those within your examples, your case studies. So that was great. And even with the committee, when we were talking about, we've been trying to have a steady flow of certain types of meetings. So this is really our product focus for what we wanted to do with the state. And when we talked about it, life settlements came up, and whereas it doesn't quite fit my book of business, sometimes having an awareness, and we had a speaker, Roger Seep, a couple years ago, who talked about the reticular activating system, the RAS part of your brain, so that once you have an awareness of something, then you end up seeing it all over the place.
Yeah.
So now that we're aware of it, whether maybe it's not perfect for my book, but coming to the market and being able to have a conversation and being able to intelligently communicate about what life settlements could be, or if someone has a question regarding life insurance, everything you said about life insurance as a life guy, you're spot on. Knowing what the value of your policy really truly is, it's great. And in the past, I just stayed away from it because I didn't want to go through a process for 6 months and then find out that the numbers just didn't make sense.
Of course. Yeah. What a pain, right? So that's, no one wants to do that. And the other thing is, no one wants to talk to their client about it and get them excited about it, and then have to tell them it doesn't work. So, right. That's the great thing about just pulling those illustrations and sending it to us. The client, you don't even need to talk to the client. We can just proactively run an analysis. And then if the analysis looks good, approach the client. And it's just prep work that's already been done. And we do it in-house as your back office.
Yeah, I love it. It's and this works really well. So Mike, who's up in Dallas, had asked, how do we find that policy evaluation tool? I think you said it was on your website.
Yes. So
and we'll follow up with an on-demand recording that folks can get, and then if there's other resources you want to point them to, we can add that too. Because I know with the recording, not everyone's going to be able to see what's in the chat.
Yeah. So Rick, I'll send you over the link, and if you can just add it in there, and they can sign up. And it's really a great tool. I really recommend that people get their back office teams in there too. Anyone that pulls illustrations for them, because just running those simultaneously is just such a great little spot for people.
Sure. So Mike followed up too. He was curious if there was a cost to use the tool, or if there's a demo or something that he can play with.
There's no cost to use the tool, and I'll send the link, and reach out to Austin or I, and we can walk you through it and teach you how to do it. We love coaching people on how to use it. We tried to make it really as easy as possible. It's a lot like WinFlex, of just type in the info and you've got it saved, and you can download it or whatever you'd like.
I love it. So I thought I was special when I first met you, Lucas, because it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when I was watching an on-demand recording of a session that you did for NAIFA a couple of years ago. And I reached out to you on LinkedIn. You responded. And then I thought he sent me a private personal link where only I had access to this wonderful tool for free. So I I'm a little sad that it wasn't just for me, but I do love that you've given everyone access to the tool, because it is really neat. In seconds, you can find out evaluation.
To be fair, at that point, it probably was exclusive. We were just rolling it out. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see. So it's a couple other questions. So there was one also asking if and I don't think, I'll let you answer, obviously. I don't think this was the case, but I see a question asking if anything was state specific, or if there are other rules as it relates to, this call being in Texas, which is relevant because I've got folks across the NAIFA Federation that I'm sure would love to see this. Is anything different outside of Texas?
No, we have to be individually licensed in every state that we operate in. So we've got life settlement brokerage licenses all over the country, but the process is still the same.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my notes. It's been a couple of years since I think I heard it originally, but the anti-sniping clause I wrote down. What a great idea. Because back in the day when eBay just came out, that's how you won stuff, is you just bid right at the end.
Yeah,
we try to lowball stuff.
We had some pain in the beginning watching people do that, and we were like, what if we come up with a way for them not to be able to do that? And then the whole thing just took off.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
That's great. It'd be kind of interesting to see, because you have that, what percentage the overall value that you see or the increased, bids that happen. I'm sure it's a dramatic change from what it was in the beginning.
Totally.
I also really liked that illustration breakdown on if we were to what information or what illustrations would help. Is that something that's on the website? I think
yeah. You said it was. Yeah, I'll send you that as well, so you can pull that up at any time. Okay.
Well, cool. It looks like some of the chatter's slowing down, and actually your team has jumped in and answered some of those too. Before we part today, and again, thank you to you and your team and everyone at Harbor Life Brokerage that to take the time to educate us. It's like I said before, you're friends of NAIFA, you're engaged. I was just in Austin on our Texas legislative session with some of your staff. So you guys aren't just throwing money at stuff, but you're walking the walk, and you're taking time to educate. Is there anything that maybe you wish we would have touched on that we didn't get to, or any parting words of wisdom that you want to drop on us?
I guess the big takeaway that I always want producers to know is, even if you haven't done life settlements, you've done life settlements in the past, you had a bad experience or a good experience, use us to our full capacity as your back office team. It's never too late to help a client getting a full understanding of their financial picture. And we're here to do all the work. And we love making producers look really good, because that's our business. And we'd love to just set up a strategy session and reach out to us. And Harbor Life is here to serve. And it's an honor to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
I love it. Great. Well, I encourage everyone to reach out to Lucas and his team, share this message. I plan on posting a link to LinkedIn, because this is a NAIFA-Texas session, but certainly the rest of the NAIFA Federation needs to hear it, to have an understanding. Options do exist. Heaven forbid one of our clients lets a policy go that could have netted some sort of additional liquidity, some money, some revenue. Why not? So appreciate you guys, and look forward to seeing y'all soon. Stay safe.